How's it going, guys? And welcome to the Tower Dive. It's the first episode of season 4. I got some amazing guests with me. We have Oz, the captain of Fight Club, Gawain, coach for EGA, Prophet, starting mid laner for EG, and then To Live Is a Smile, starting AD carry for Nevermore. And I am RutledgeIsBeast, your host with the most. So we're just going to get right into the questions. So in the Iron, Bronze, Silver, Gold, it seems that there's a bit of a closer cluster at the top with Sad Boys, AOL, EXE, and KWB all within a game or two of each other. Who do you think is going to be the first seed and why? I'm going to start with you, Gwen.
So I think that Sad Boys is going to keep the #1 spot. The reason why is that most of the time you're looking for consistency within both the lower leagues and the higher leagues, but most definitely in the lower leagues of being able to keep the same play style and continue to do what your team needs to do every week. And they've been the most consistent with that. And so I think that they're going to be able to keep their #1 standing throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, and like you said, they're already up there, so see if they can hold it throughout the season. Go ahead, Prophet.
So I think Sad Boys is an interesting case for the top seed. Obviously, they've been playing pretty well so far. However, I feel like teams probably figured out to ban Lux at this point. If they ban Lux, I feel like Sad Boys, maybe Dat Temptator Tots could be pinched a little bit. But especially with AOL's strong showing this week, I'm going to go ahead and put them at #1. Sad Boys #2. Duo Esports #3 after their 0-2 week. Very surprising. They just had a rough time. And then Killer Whale Brigade at #4.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a pretty respectable analysis. AOL definitely has looked super strong this week against two really good teams in the IBSG, so definitely could see them continuing to do that. What about you, Oz?
I'm taking Sad Boys to win it as well. I really like their logo, and I think that that's going to help them a lot to take the top spot. But no, seriously, I think they're playing really well. And, you know, the first game that I watched, they seem to have some different players in, and I believe they lost that game. And since then, the ones that I've watched, they've really just taken off. So I'm picking them to take it.
Fair. I know a lot of times people pick the favorite color for their teams, like in March Madness. So, hey, I respect that method of picking. Next, finally, we got To Live Is a Smile.
Yeah, I do like how both those teams are performing. I think it's going to be a really close call, but I think we're going to have to look at week 6 when they both play. I think whoever wins that will definitely be the clear #1. So I don't think I can rank them both.
So you're in between on Sad Boys and AOL.
I do think it's a really close call, and
Okay.
that one game will probably determine that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely based on the standings right now, I mean, that's definitely been kind of proven in the first half of the season. So we have 2 for Sad Boys, 1 for AOL, and 1 kind of in between of the two teams. So I would have to say that I actually think that based on what I've seen, Exile Esports, I think has some of the cleanest team play. Now, they did have a really rough week going 0-2, playing against, I believe, both the top teams. But I think they just showed before that they can play super cleanly. And they also just seem pretty smart in their drafts. They just seem to have pretty high mechanics. Their game against AOL was super close. I could definitely see them kind of shoring up their mistakes, especially with how much they practice, and coming back and becoming the #1 team again. So I look for it to be really close between all those teams, but I think Exile might be able to kind of shore up their things and come back next week strong. But I liked all your answers. Let's move on to question number 2. So for the GPCS, sorry about that, there are 2 teams fighting for that #1 spot. We have Active Rush and Guardian Gaming. Are these 2 teams just superior than the rest, or do we see any of the rest of the league contesting them for that top 2 come playoff time? I'm going to start with you again, Gwen.
So I honestly think a lot of the teams right now are kind of playing like hot garbage throughout the entire leagues. And so although I think that AR and GG are miles ahead of just like having that team play, I think that they are going to keep that lead because it's hard to improve as a team throughout the season. But I do think that if a team is like practicing what they should do, trying to turn kills into vision/objectives, I do think that they can catch up. I don't think that AR and GG is that far ahead. It's just having that base of both the score line in the standings is some sort of boost to morale, but also I think that they are just a better team right now, and I think that they'll probably improve at the same rate as other teams. So I do think that they'll continue to be in the top spots. But I think it's possible that the other leagues can contest them.
Okay, so the other teams just got to start improving because they're just not playing very well right now. Okay.
Yeah.
So what about you, Prophet? What do you think?
So obviously we saw Guardian Gaming and Active Rush play this week. I believe Active Rush did come out on top on that one.
GG
Actually, no, Guardian. Guardian came out on top. That's correct. But then at the same time, we saw Guardian actually manage to lose to Resurrected later in the week. And then Active Rush had a little bit of a scare against DG. So I don't feel like these teams are completely uncontested per se. But as far as their position in the standings, I think they'll definitely be our top two teams. But I don't think they're going to be massive favorites going to any game in the playoffs. I feel like we could definitely see some surprising teams. Maybe take a couple games off them, maybe even take the series if they're feeling ready.
Okay, so you see them as maybe ending the season top two, but maybe having issues with teams still, like maybe getting more losses before the season's over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What about you, Oz? What do you think?
Well, I have to be honest, I haven't watched a whole lot of the GPCS games. AR and GG, I've seen one of both of their games, and they both look really good, but I just think anything can happen, and you just never know. I mean, I think any of the teams, really, if they have a good run, they can push back up to the top. I mean, so we'll just have to wait and see.
I mean, that's totally fair. I mean, I've definitely said that, especially in best of ones, any team can win any series or any game. So it definitely can.
Yeah, I mean, all it takes is a couple of crucial mistakes.
Yeah, for sure.
And
all right, to live his smile. What about you?
I also haven't watched too much of GPCS, but given what I heard from the Prophet, it sounds like that they don't, as of right now, standings-wise, they're up there, but they also need to play better if they want to cement that. So,
okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, they definitely have. I mean, I'm on Active Rush, and we definitely did have a closer game against GG, and then we lost to GG. So I think it's definitely close between a lot of the teams. It's just funny how the standings are broken out, where at the bottom there's a pretty good big cluster, but the tops kind of seems to have just separated, even though it's mostly probably close games. So I do think they actually can be contested, and it's just up to the teams to figure out more consistent ways of actually winning best of ones. And I think GG and AR are just both really good at winning pretty consistently, which is why they've separated themselves, and the rest of the teams have kind of duked it out closer to the middle and the bottom. So actually leading in to my next question. So we are nearing the mid-season point for nearing the mid-season point for the league. IBSG, sorry. The teams, Cola Brigade, Nevermore, Team Obliteration, and Fight Club are all falling behind in that bottom four category, right outside of playoffs. But they're all pretty close. Do you see any of them making a run for the playoffs for that sixth spot? I'm going to start with you again, Gwen.
So, honestly, I think it's possible that they do make it. I do think that they are trying to improve, and that there isn't a very big skill distinction between most of the teams in the lower bracket. So the issue is that with such a bad scoreline now, it's not going to be entirely independent of luck, because other teams in the league have to start doing bad in order for them to really start catching up, which means that even if they do improve, it's unlikely that they are going to make playoffs, just because it's going to depend on so many other teams winning and losing to actually make it possible.
So you think they stay in the bottom four?
I do think that they stay in the bottom four.
Okay. Prophet, your turn.
So one thing that I do find funny is that we actually have 3 representatives of these teams here. Myself as coach of Obliteration, Oz is the captain of Fight Club, and then To Live Is to Smile is the ADC for Nevermore. It's kind of a funny little thing there. Overall, I don't think any of these teams are like necessarily miles below. Obviously, Gwen said the standings are a big issue. Obliteration obviously have had a lot of struggles. I think they've got the talent. If they wanted to, they could make a run. Obviously, they think they're going to make a run, as evident by the constant trash talk. But overall, they haven't shown they can put it together yet. The one dark horse for me that I could see potentially making the playoffs is actually Nevermore. I'm going to give it to them. I think they started off the season a little rougher than I would like. They maybe predicted with Sully as the captain to go a little bit higher in the standings than they are right now. My issue is right now is that I'm not sure if I can see Nevermore over a team such as EG Academy or Active Rush Academy. I feel like those teams, they've got a really good run organization on both their parts. I think they're definitely going to lock it up down the stretch.
Okay, so you see potential in some, Nevermore at least in the bottom, but you think those two pretty well-established orgs in this league are going to be able to figure things out and hold those two bottom spots of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see those tighten up a bit. However, but I think EG Academy and Actrush Academy will both pull out for 5 and 6.
Okay. All right, Oz, your turn.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that the bottom four, it's going to be a really rough road to try to get up into the playoffs. I've scrimmed and played against EGA several times now, and they're a rough team to beat, and they're not even on the top of the list. So, as much as I'd like to see my own team, Fight Club, make it up there, I don't think it's going to happen. We're going to have to all just try to improve for next season, probably.
Hey, and sometimes it's a rebuilding year for you, or a rebuilding season for you, or
with Fight Club in particular, this is our first time trying at something like this, and so, we knew it was going to be rough coming in.
Yeah, for sure. It's a pretty competitive league. I was in the Golden Under last season, and it was pretty fierce. There was some pretty good teams, and teams definitely get a lot better over the course of the season. So I definitely could see you guys at least picking up some more wins towards the end. For sure.
I hope so.
All right, and finally, to live as a smile.
Yeah. So speaking for Nevermore personally, we've had issues with our roster. If it wasn't apparent enough, I think in the last week and a half or so, we've kind of gotten that settled. I think if we can pick up wins maybe this week or in next week, we'll probably be able to make that what like Cloud9 Miracle run. I do want to see Kohler Brigade play this week because they play AOL, and if they can manage to pull that one off, that'd be real interesting to see how that shakes up the standings.
Yeah, definitely taking a game off one of the two top teams would be pretty eyebrow raising for sure. Who do you think? You think Nevermore can make the push?
We're trying our hardest. So I want to say we can, but we'll have to show that come game time.
Okay. Who do you think you guys have the best chance of knocking out? Who do you think that team is that drops in the second half to possibly open up that sixth spot for you guys?
I actually haven't looked at the second half roster, unfortunately, so I can't answer that question.
Fair enough. I was just trying to create some controversy. That's what I do.
I'm not very confrontational, so I don't know.
It's okay.
That's unfortunate.
I can personally see Killer Whale Brigade maybe losing some games. We felt like we could beat them when we first played them, and it didn't turn out that way. But judging from the research we did on their roster, we didn't feel like they were one of the strongest teams. So.
Okay. There's a hot take. Got Ozzy saying Killer Whale Brigade going to drop from 4th to 7th. Feel it coming. From my point of view, from what I've watched from these teams, I agree. I think Nevermore has probably the best chance of actually getting into a playoff spot. Now, who they knock out is kind of hard to say. Maybe it is Killer Whale Brigade, or I do have a hard time seeing EGA or Active Rush Academy dropping out. I think they actually start to pick up the pace a little bit. I know EG actually started the season in the top spot, and Active Rush Academy actually took over for our Serendisc or whatever their smurfing name was, and has kind of climbed back from 0-2 from the very start. So it's definitely going to be a closer race towards the end of the season. I don't think these teams are going to be still like crazy far behind in the bottom four. I think they'll take some games off people and make the standings much more interesting come playoff time. So. And let's move on to our second to final question. So for the Gold Plat League, there was a 4-way tie for at 2 and 5 at the bottom of the standings. Which of these teams do you see having the best chance to kind of break out of that pack and maybe get in that playoff spot for that league? I'm going to start again with you, Gwen.
So because it's a 4-way tie, and then the next two spots are both at 3 wins, means that honestly any of these teams, if they just get a little lucky and get 1 or 2 more wins than the other 5 teams, they're probably going to make playoffs. If I am going to name one, I'm going to say Resurrected, just because they did get a win off of a very high tier team. I'm not sure if it was because maybe the high tier team was using some more subs, or if Resurrected just played out of their mind. But just because of that, I'm going to probably give it to them. But honestly, any of the bottom 5 teams can make playoffs. It's just dependent on getting 1 or 2 more wins than everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Resurrected kind of surprised, I think, a lot of people for going from that 1-5 record, being basically the bottom team at that point, to beating GG after they just took down Active Rush pretty convincingly, I would add. So, yeah, I could totally see Resurrected making that climb. What about you, Prophet?
I'm stirring up some controversy. Third world democracy, hot garbage. KFC, hot garbage. I think EG makes a push to the playoffs. I think we've looked really good as of late. I feel like we definitely have the best chance. However, one team that I am a little bit nervous about, gotta say Resurrected as well. I think they could definitely make the push for the playoffs. I'm really not convinced in Pursuit Gaming or Cool Friends Club as those 5 and 6 seeds. I think the only real seeds that are confirmed here are the top 3. I think Active Rush, Guardian Gaming, and the Amumus will all finish top 3. I feel like standings wise, it's going to be really hard to catch any of them. Midwest Express, good team if they show up, but we good old Mimo. We never know what's going to happen. But other than that, I definitely think that EG and Resurrected are my favorite to climb into the playoffs here.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Resurrected. Totally could see them climbing. I do agree. EG's look better. I think they need to figure out how to really push a lead and close the game. I think it's been their biggest struggle always. Like ever since even last season, EG just struggled to finish games when they had leads. So we'll see if they can shore up those things. Well, I guess I should say, see if you guys can shore up some of those things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think you guys have the potential for sure to climb out. Oz, do you have any input into this question?
Well, like I said, I haven't watched a lot of the GPCS matches, but I'm going to also say Enigmatic. Mostly, I just feel like, they've got a team in both leagues. They apparently have coaching happening, and I don't know. I feel like there's something to be said for having a group that large and having their stuff together, and I think they'll be able to pull something off.
Oz, I've never been more proud of you in my life. You're my baby now.
Well, I'd like to get there myself at some point. I'm trying to build something over here. So, I respect that you guys have, teams in both leagues and you seem to have your stuff together. So I'd like to see it happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for organizational structure and just having consistency and just good management, I would say for sure.
I agree. And as someone who's only been doing this for this one season and only had a team together for maybe 5 or 6 months, it's not easy. I mean, it's, between time zones and getting people to show up to stuff and chasing people around on the internet to get them messages. It's not easy, much less getting the team together and playing cohesively.
Yeah, being an owner, a player, and a captain, I can definitely tell you I feel those struggles as well. Definitely people can be a little bit flaky, I think should be the word to describe them sometimes. But let's go ahead and move on to our final guest here. To Live as a Smile.
Yeah, so as I said before, I don't have much experience with the GPCS, but I am a sucker for a good underdog story. So it'd be really cool to see any of these 4 teams do something to break away from each other and into the playoff runs.
Do you have any favorites? Like, have you watched any of their games?
I did like the looks of Enigmatic Gaming and Resurrected.
Okay. Yeah,
those are the only 2 I've caught from the Gold Plat series.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I definitely think you're pretty on there too. I definitely think they kind of it's hard. They have very clear ways of maybe improving in the future and pulling off those wins. Just having problems with Resurrected with a couple Smurfs or a couple band issues, and then Enigmatic just having a terrible start and then looking better as of late, kind of. Like they're kind of like, maybe they could do something. I guess we'll just have to see. But definitely I think there's room to be shaken up in that bottom part. And I don't think this is, I mean, like you said earlier, there's only one game really separating from those teams getting into that 5th, 6th area. So they just have to start pulling off those wins. And I think it'll be a slugfest for the final 2 spots moving forward, or even the final 3 spots of playoffs. Mm-hmm. So let's go into our last question. I just want you guys to pick who is your match of the week and just tell me why. It could be super simple. Just be like, hey, these 2 teams are top of the standings. Just pick a matchup. You can't pick the same matchup. So I'm actually going to go in reverse order to give them the advantage since you guys got first answers to everything. So To Live as a Smile, who is your match of the week and why?
So I was looking at the route schedule, and if I had to pin down one, it'd probably be Killer Whale Brigade versus Active Rush Academy. Given those, that's 4th and 6th. I think that would definitely cement who has a better chance of keeping their playoff status or playoff seed, depending on how the bottom 4 teams go.
Yeah, that would definitely kind of solidify which one of them maybe gets to stay up in that top, like we talked about. I definitely could see that being a good game. Also, I'm rooting for my academy team, of course. So let's go ahead and go to Oz next.
I liked the OBL versus ARA game. I actually really enjoyed that game. I thought they were going to pull off an upset there. And I don't know. I just after all the problems that they've had on the team, I thought they did a good job. OBL, I mean, and I actually thought they were going to pull that game off. I don't know. I watched several games this week, and that was the one I probably enjoyed the most.
Okay. Do you have a matchup for this coming week that you're anticipating, that you're looking forward to? Maybe if it's even one of your own.
Let's see. Nevermore versus Fight Club. I'm looking forward to that. Let's see how it goes. I mean, we just signed some coaches and stuff, and we're working with them pretty intensely, so we're hoping to improve going forward.
Okay.
So
get your first
I can't wait. I'm excited for
win.
it. We'll see.
You guys got the win against the OBL, so we're looking.
Well, it was a forfeit.
Yeah,
it was a forfeit.
Win's a win, man. You got to take them when you can.
No, I mean I'll take the number on the board, but it wasn't a win.
All right, let's go to the Prophet.
So I've got 2 ones that really stick out to me this week. Overall, I really want to see how Nevermore does, at least in my mind, against a mechanically superior team in Obliteration. I feel like the macro for Nevermore should be a lot better. I think that's going to be a fun matchup. Another one, though, 2 big teams in the GPCS that we were talking about was Resurrected and EG. They actually play each other this week. Make a bold prediction here. I think the winner of that game makes playoffs, no questions asked. And I think the other is going to have a tough road to climb.
Okay, so you think we might have a winner of the playoff, or a gold plat team that's going to be kind of standing out this week out of that matchup, maybe solidifying themselves as a playoff contender at least. Okay, bold claim. See if it pays off, or see if it works out for him. Gawain, what about you?
I do think that there are a lot of uneven matchups this week, whether that's like at the top of the standings versus others. So I do think that every game this week will be interesting, as since we're halfway, this will start to matter. Every game will solidify where everybody is. But I'm going to say AOL versus Cola Brigade. I do think that AOL's win against Exile Esports was kind of crappy, and both teams threw like multiple times. So I want to see whether or not Cola Brigade can kind of string together a playoff run, especially since Cola Brigade and Nevermore are tied for the right below 6th place, and they might be able to make it. And AOL can maybe start dropping if they are unable to kind of keep their lead and keep their play style going. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's definitely a lot of matchups with like the top teams playing the closer to the bottom teams. There are a few of those, like you mentioned, Resurrected and EG. That was actually gonna be mine. And since you picked 2, I'm gonna go ahead and take that one. I do think that they will also have a really big impact on who makes it out of the bottom of those 4 or 5 teams in the Gold Plat League. And I'm really interested to see what teams are going to start improving and climbing and contesting us. And actually, if we're going to end up in the first or second playoff seed as far as Active Rush goes, then we'll be playing the team that's in the 5th or 6th seed. So it matters a lot to me about which one of those teams kind of starts to like trend upwards. So I really want to keep an eye on those teams, and I think it'll be just a good game in general. I think those teams are definitely around that same skill level. Of course, I think all the teams are pretty close. So definitely looking forward to a lot of upsets hopefully this week, and just a lot of those close games between those teams kind of in the same similar standing area. So all right, guys, well, thank you for joining me for the first tower dive of the season. Definitely be looking to see more of these tower dives pop up every week, and also be keeping an eye on the Discord. You can also join me as one of my lovely guests next week. You just got to maybe make sure to see my post when I'm looking for guests, and just be ready to come in here and have a chat with me and answer some questions. So that's it for me. This is RutledgeIsBeast signing off. I'll see you guys next week. Later.